What's happening, dogs? Mr. Allen here. We're about to simplify with some trig. Now, a common strategy when approaching a problem such as this one is I like to put things into terms of sine and cosine. It's usually a good starting point. So secant is going to be 1 over cosine of theta, and then we still have times sine of theta. I'll go ahead and throw that into a fraction over 1. And then now my denominator, tangent, is sine theta over cosine theta. And then cotangent is just the reciprocal of that, right? So it's cosine theta over sine theta. All right, now it looks a lot worse, but sometimes things get a little bit worse before they get better. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? All right. So I'm thinking now, this guy can become one fraction, sine over cosine, but over here, I'm thinking I need to get a common denominator. So I'm going to multiply this guy here by sine of theta over sine of theta, because that's like multiplying by 1. And same goes here, but I'm going to do cosine of theta over cosine of theta. And I want to point something out before we continue here. You want to look ahead in these types of problems. If I multiply by sine over sine, not only am I going to get common denominators, I'm going to get a sine squared. And working with squared ones is usually a little bit easier because you have your Pythagorean identities that you can start bringing into the mix. When nothing's squared, there's no Pythagorean identities that I can bring in. But now I'm going to be able to introduce that. The same goes over here. So I'm thinking a couple steps ahead with this type of problem. So my numerator of this complex fraction is going to be sine of theta over cosine theta. Now my denominator of this complex fraction is going to be sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta over that common denominator, sine theta cosine theta. All right, let's check this out. Sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta is just 1, right? It's my Pythagorean identity. I can also, in the same step here to save a little space, multiply by the reciprocal. Since it's dividing by a fraction, multiply by its reciprocal is the move to do. So check this out. My first one is just going to be sine theta over cosine theta times, now my reciprocal, this guy becomes the numerator right here, sine theta cosine theta over, and as we said, sine squared plus cosine squared is just 1, so over 1. Now I can simplify some things. Cosine canceled out. I'm left with sine times sine over 1, or just sine squared theta. Dang, dogs. That is super duper dope. All started with turning it into terms of sine and cosine, and then looking ahead for those Pythagorean identities and getting some common denominators within my denominator. That's the move right there. That's dope. That's awesome. I think that's about it. That's awesome. I said that already. That's awesome. See ya.